We are live. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of an Emporia Brands webinar. And for this month, I am very, very happy to have ourselves the Managing Director of Nardini of Bassano del Grappa. I have myself, Massimo Tonini, who has been very, very patient enough to spare with us a good hour of showcasing what Nardini is all about. Now, before we carry on, I've got a bit of a penchant towards Nardini, and I didn't tell Massimo this, but a couple of years ago, my introduction to Nardini was through what we have called the Bassano Bar, and it was a partnership with Pizza Express up here in Manchester, where I'm based, and I had it with the brand ambassador for Nardini, with Nick Hopewell-Smith, who is now, I'm sure, gladly retired, and fingers crossed he's a part of it today, watching us live. And I found, Massimo, my Nardini apron. So I'm going to wear my pride. As much as I would love to have a bit of a Caribbean look with my shirts, I can have a bit of Italian feel to it as well. Because it was that bar is what got me to understand and appreciate Nardini, and obviously my love affair for everything grappa and aperitivo. And it's because of that obviously here at Emporia Brands, we wanted to invite yourself to showcase, to appreciate what's, and I suppose demystify a little bit of what grappa and aperitivo from one of the oldest, if not the oldest, grappa distillery in Italy itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this on the Emporia Brands Facebook page, thank you for joining us this evening. We've got a fair bit to get through, but hopefully it'll be very informative, very lighthearted, as we showcase not just Nardini's past, but Nardini's future in regards to our new packaging, which, fingers crossed, you're going to absolutely love. And of course, we're going to experience 5 different bottlings here tonight as well. If you have yourself a bit of a Nardini pack at home, please, of course, feel free. Comment as and when. I'm going to keep my eye. If you have any questions, feel free to post them up, and we will do our best to answer. But other than that, I'm going to hand over to Massimo. And Massimo, I've got a question for yourself. It's a bit of a blunt question, but would you like to explain who you are and how you yourself has got involved with the world of Nardini?
Well, I'm the managing director since 1 year and a half. So I joined forces coming from the wine and spirit industry. I'm mainly a wine guy, so learning the spirit industry, which is quite intriguing, quite nice actually. Well, I joined forces because there was a main change happening at the company, which remains 100% family owned by the Nardinis since 7th generation. But the family decided to have a turn and a shift into a more management-driven approach. So I'm coordinating a wonderful team of professionals. The master distiller has been aboard for 25 years. We have a nice marketing team. Solid domestic market sales team, and we are moving more and more to international distribution. So great honor and privilege. I was born and raised watching a Nardini bottle on my parents' shelves, the liquors. So it's part of my culture and my roots. I was born and grown in Veneto. So for me, it's being back to the roots.
Fantastic. Now, I know you put a fantastic presentation for everyone to experience tonight. So I've just made you host. Please feel free to share, and we'll crack on, because I'm not going to lie, I'm getting a little bit thirsty for a bit of grappa.
All right. Ready? Okay, welcome to Bassano del Grappa. There are a she and a he here, actually, because the mount that you see in this representation of the bridge over the river Brenta is called grappa, but it's a pure coincidence because it's not related to the fact that the first grappa in Italy was born here. So the male part of the picture is the mountain. It's a he, the Mount Grappa, that has been there well before grappa was born. And the she part actually is the grappa that was born actually here. You can see this corner of the bridge where Bortolo Nardini started his activity, but it's just anecdotal. So thank you, first of all, to the Emporia team for organizing this webinar. And we hope we can reach as many people as possible in the promising UK market. So quickly on our brand manifesto, because we recently restyled our flagship products, actually our grappas, the classic grappa bianca and riserva, with a new brand manifesto, which is Piacere Nardini, that in our language is Pleasure Nardini. So in Pils, of course, we are Italian, but we have no borders. We've been innovating for over 240 years. It's going to be 242 years in 8 days. So we are very close to our birthday, actually, to constantly surprise you. We have one passion, but a triple distillation that we're going to see moving forward what we mean. We are a bridge that you've seen before, the bridge over the River Brenta between our story and our history, I would say, and yours. And we are grappa, and Italy's first grappa. This is a video that we recently released to introduce actually the restyling of iconic grappas. So as you can see, new language, colors, but still solid roots on the Nardini brand and logo. Fine details in the representation of our roots, and we are now clearly marking the pre-distillation process behind our blend, which is quite unique, describing on the back level all. So, Pleasure, Piacere Nardini. So let's move quickly to the history behind the brand, because as you can understand, it's quite a long history, over 2 centuries. So going back 2 centuries, in the 17th and 18th century, actually, distillation of grappa was not as we intend today. So at the time, distillation was door-to-door, mobile distillation. So basically, the distiller were going door-to-door to the farmers to distill their small portions of pomace to produce their homemade grappa. Bortolo Nardini was born, let's say, half an hour drive north of where we are today in Bassano, in a valley called Cembra Valley in Trentino. And he decided to move to Bassano del Grappa to settle down and to understand potential business perspectives. So this is Italy, just to understand where we are. This is Bassano, where I'm talking from tonight. As you can see here, we have Venice, Venezia. And this is where Bortolo came from Segonzano. Another major city is Padua, let's say 50 minutes drive south, which is where I stay, and Milan is on the west side. So Bortolo Nardini was quite tenacious in his will to transform his vision into reality. So he purchased actually the Osteria al Ponte, which is actually here, the wooden bridge that was designed and planned by illustrious architect at the beginning of the 16th century. So the bridge has been there for a long time. And on April 16th, 1779, which is a milestone date in our history, he established Italy's first distillery in a sort of revolutionary approach to distillation, because, as I said before, distillers were going door to door before that, and for the first time, the farmers started going to the distillery to distill their own pomace. So the grapperia benefited quite a lot from its location, because 2 centuries ago, rivers, and in particular the Brenta River, was quite a commercial route to the Republic of Venice. So you can imagine all the wood coming from the mountains going to Venice was basically passing via boats or via water directly over this river. And so this was a very important commercial crossroad between the mountain and the Republic of Venice. Bortolo bought not only the osteria, but also a building just in front of the osteria that we will see afterwards. Formerly was a silk mill, and this was connected by a tavern and underground tunnel to the current location. So again, for the first time, the distiller was no longer going door to door, but the wine growers themselves were bringing their own pomace to the distiller for the production of grappa. As you can see here, we have some memorabilia dating back a couple of centuries. One of the first distillers, and the jars, the copper jars, where actually the grappa was stored, and the clients actually were serving directly from the tap, directly on the glass or on the bottle. So definitely another era, because we're back to centuries. But these memorabilia are still well preserved in our grapperia. So the Nardinis have been innovating over the centuries. So not only from mobile to stand distillation, but in 1860, for the first time, steam distillation was introduced in the grappa production. That was quite revolutionary. Some years after, the first Riserva was conceived and born, because during this period in Europe there was a big disease, namely the phylloxera, that was affecting the rootstock to produce the vine, basically. And so there was a scarcity of pomace at the time. So the Nardini decided to set aside some portions of grappa and let it rest and age in wooden barrels, in oak. So this was the beginning of something that became probably popular 1 century later, that was grappa riserva as a category, because before that grappa was intended only to be a white spirit. In 1919, the Nardinis introduced a technique of rectification, a double rectification, to obtain an even cleaner and purer grappa, so removing those alcohols that were not desirable in the final blend. And in 1963, we have the first vacuum steam distillation. So again, during these centuries, with 7 generations of Nardini, the guidance of the distillery, as you can see, the innovations were constant and quite dominant. So a snapshot of the River Brenta, the historical bridge in a period of crowd. So today the landscape is a little bit different, but we are getting back to normality. And as you can see, there is quite a link between the bridge and the osteria, because in a sense the bridge is laying on the osteria. Another snapshot of the bridge. This has been under maintenance recently, because in a few weeks, actually, there will be an official vernissage for the total restoration of the bridge. Here you can see all the cables had been moved up on the ceiling to allow some maintenance works on the pavement. But going inside, you can start watching and breathing the magic of the grapperia. As you can see, this is a timeless place. So this desk is dating back 2 centuries. Even the floors, the bench, and the jars, the copper jars, are pieces of history and art, I would say. All our bottles are showcased there, and people normally gather here to have their aperitif and their sips with friends inside and outside the place. But we can mix this, I would say, traditional approach with something more contemporary and far-sighted. So at the beginning of the year 2000, the Nardinis decided to tribute the local community with a jewel of architecture, projected by Massimiliano Fuxas, an illustrious Italian architect, dedicating to the local community this opera called the Bolle, namely the bubbles that intended to represent the distillation process, and the bubbles that you can see in the column distillation during the distillation process. So this lower bubble today is also site where our technical laboratory takes place. So we can combine a technical approach to an hospitality approach, because in the underground basement we have an auditorium for over 100 people. So definitely we are working hard to increase our hospitality culture. So what changed in over 2 centuries at Nardini? So at the very beginning, there was one distillery at the bridge. Today we have 2. Actually, one is in the main site here in Bassano, where the corporate offices are, and there is a main distillery 1 hour south in the province of Treviso, where we gather all the supply of the pomace and we do the first distillation. Today, compared to the very beginning, where we had only 1 grappa, white grappa, we have 15 SKUs between grappas, liqueurs, and aperitifs, and bitters, amari. And distribution, that at the time was only in the Kingdom of Lombardy and Venetia, is currently in 38 countries. So definitely a more international approach for that. As I said in the beginning, Nardini is solidly controlled, 100% controlled by the family. So there are no funds or external investors. We are the 7th generation. Today, Michele, who is here, is our CEO. And he represents, of course, the family and the company as CEO. But as I said, the family has been farsighted enough to decide and opt for a management-driven approach. The brand, the Nardini brand, belongs to the very exclusive Enochians club of bicentenary family-owned companies and business, which is quite a pride for us. And the association of the Enochian has expressed its appreciation towards the company values, like the connection to the land, the dedication to quality, and the careful and respectful conservation of its historic roots. As I said, distribution is today worldwide. Needless to say that grappa remains mainly a domestic category with a great potential to become an international success. So today I would say that 65% of our business remains domestic. We have a solid distribution in the German-speaking countries. So Germany, Switzerland, Austria are key markets. We have a very good partnership, well, England, of course, with Emporia. We have the Maison de Whisky in France. We did recently a very good job in the Pacific area with Australia, New Zealand. We have a general agent taking care now of Asia Pacific, solid position in Japan, and of course, we think the new frontier for us in terms of export markets is the US market and, of course, Canada. Some peels and a quick introduction to the technical process at Nardini. Well, in 6 easy steps, we do, first of all, the selection of the pomace from multiple grape varieties. So first of all, Nardini is one of the few distillers of grappa with an autarkic approach to production. So we don't buy and sell any drop of what we produce because we stick to our, let's say, secret and original formula. And so we distill 100% of what we finally bottle as grappa. The pomace comes to our main distillation plants in Monastier, so 1 hour south of where I'm talking from Bassano. All the pomace is stored in cement vats where it stands for weeks or months for a natural fermentation, because this is instrumental to generate those alcohols that then are separated through steam in order to become alcohol and finally grappa. Our grappa is a blend of 3 distillation processes. This doesn't mean that we distill 3 times, so we're not vodka, we are grappa, but we use 3 different techniques to obtain our final blend. So our final blend, of course, is a secret formula, but is a blend of 5 different components. 3 of them are the result of 3 different techniques of distillation. One portion that can vary according to the vintage, let's say 5 to 10% of our final blend is redistilled grappa, which is very rare and unique because it's also costly in terms of process. But this allows us to obtain a mellowness on our blend, which is very distinctive, despite the character of our grappa is quite solid and well defined. After this, we go through transformation, aging in the case of the reservas, and then of course we need to reduce the grappa alcohol content, because normally we start at 82.5% ABV, and we reduce normally to 50, 40, 42, 45. So we have different kind of SKUs that we're going to see in a second. And after filtering, which is a very important step in our process, we move to the final stage, which is bottle. This is a snapshot of the pomace, just for you to understand what we're talking about. We use fresh pomace, first of all, from loyal suppliers that are from 0 kilometers to 40, 50 kilometers east and west from our distillation point. So our approach is very local. So we don't purchase from, I would say, Tuscany or Piedmont or other regions. So I would say 98% of our pomace is coming from Veneto. The most popular grapes in our region are, of course, the typical Bordeaux blend, so Cabernet Merlot. We have a local red grape called Raboso, which is very important in our blend because it's delivering important aromas and alcohol content. Of course, in recent years, and I would say unfortunately, Prosecco had quite a takeoff, and I'm sure you're familiar with this category in the UK. So part of our blend is also based on Prosecco, and then we have the Pinot family with Pinot Grigio, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Bianco. So these are the grapes that we finally use in our blend. We tend to privilege, of course, the red varieties, so Cabernet Merlot, Raboso. We are just below 50% on the blend on red grapes because these are delivering the best aromas and the best body to our grappa. So the fresh pomace is taken to the distillery, where it is stocked in these cement vats, properly covered, air tightened, and then sealed with sand on top to allow a completely natural fermentation process to produce basically those alcohols that then are separated with steam to extract the alcohols. Here we go with the techniques that we use to extract this alcohol. So we have 3 methods: the distillation by a column, which is normally utilized to get the maximum purity from our alcohol. This method is very sharp and scientific in order to select those alcohols that are instrumental to produce our blends. We have also a bain-marie steel distiller, which is bound for specific portion or parcels of pomace, especially the most nobile red grapes are distilled on bain-marie. And then we have the old school traditional steam still for body. So as I said before, our final blend is a blend of the 3 techniques. Once we finish the distillation process and we set aside and keep separated every portion, the raw grappa we obtain is roughly 82% ABV. This is transferred to the production facility here in Bassano del Grappa, where it rests at least for 1 year in stainless steel tank. We can see the tanks here, top left. And after a year in stainless steel, which is instrumental for the grappa to obtain mellowness and rest properly, The portion that is bound to become Riserva is stored for a minimum, in our case, of 3 years in Slavonian oak cask. Just for you to know, the status of Riserva on a grappa is obtained after 18 months. So consider that our I would say classic or flagship Riserva is obtained after 3 years, so the double in terms of aging. But we start with 3 years to go to 5, 7, 15, and we end up with a blend of 22-year single cask. So definitely aging for us is a crucial process in the production of grappa, although I would say that the majority of our production remains the classic white grappa. The next step, which is fundamental, is the reduction, because as I said, we start with 82 and we reduce this alcohol level normally to 50, in some cases 40, 42. This is obtained with the addition of demineralized water. So to demineralize water, we use a mechanical process via filtering with osmotic filters. So we don't use any chemicals, of course. Once we obtain the alcohol level we deserve, grappa then is cooled to around 0 degrees Celsius and then filtered again into a fossil flour in order to separate those little residues of heavy components like oils that normally are considered enemies in the final blend, because they are responsible for the non-digestive part of some grappas you can find in the market. So for us, this process is very important, because we believe that purity and lightness of our final blend is instrumental to our quality. So finally, we filter with paper filter to ensure maximum purity, and only at this point, grappa is ready for bottling, as you can see on the picture bottom.
Fantastic. Massimo, I've just had a question here from Toby Heap. Hi, Toby. Thank you for joining in this evening. He asked, what sort of flavors do you get from the Slavonian oak?
What sort of? Say it again.
What sort of flavors do you get from the Slavonian oak?
Well, consider that we use 20 hectoliters Slavonian oak, so they are considered quite relatively big in size. So it's quite neutral in terms of flavor, because this barrel can go back to 10, 15 years of aging. So aging for us is instrumental, of course, to maintain the character of grappa, but definitely with a touch of tannin, light tannin deriving from Slavonian oak. So for the time being, we don't use any second-hand, I would say, like port of sherry cask. It's something we are exploring, and sooner or later we will definitely maybe adopt for micro productions. But for the time being, we stick to the 20 hectoliters Slavonian oak, because we think it's the kind of size and container respecting to the most the original character of our grappas.
Fantastic. I've just had an extra question that follows on from that from Panos. He's asked, are the casks charred as well?
Not really. We clean them, of course, because it's important to have an hygienic approach, although the alcohol it's not like in wine that you need to char properly the cask maybe every second year. So in our case, hygiene is the only way to keep the cask going for years and years.
Okay. And one final question. They're all coming out the woodwork now. David Martin from Liverpool is asking, do any of the stills do any of the original stills, are they still in operation?
Well, we have the oldest still we have is back from the 60s of last century, and we have operational, of course, and the oldest still that you've seen in a picture before is dating back 150 years, non-operational, but it's part of the memorabilia at the Grapperia.
Fantastic. Okay, cool.
Good. So the next is a quick snapshot on our range, just to familiarize with all the families of our products. So we have our classics here, the white and the Riserva. In some selected market, including the UK, we decided to introduce the 40% ABV, which for us is very versatile, especially for mixology, compared to our classic blend at 50% ABV, where we keep the 50 in the domestic and the German-speaking markets. So UK, Asia Pacific, and the US and Canada are 40% ABV on classic grappas. On the Selezione Bortolo Nardini, that was introduced 4 years ago, we do a selection of the Pomas, so 90% of the Pomas for this range is red, so predominantly Cabernet Merlot and the Raposo I mentioned before. So we keep separated the distillation of the best portion of red Pomas, and only a selected part of the grappa deriving from this distillation is bound to become Selezione Bortolo Nardini. So to give you an example, these days we are talking about 10,000 liters worldwide of Selezione, which represents, I would say, something like probably 5% of our total production. So it's a real selection, starting with the extra fina white. It's a 42% ABV. There is a good portion of redistilled grappa here. So the mellowness of extra fina is quite unique and make extra fina ideal for premium mixology. We move to the Riserva, which is a 5 year. We just changed the status of our Selezione Riserva first level from 3 to 5, and then we go up to 7, 15, and finally 22 single cask. So on the single cask, we made a release of only just above 3,000 bottles, signed by the master distiller in this very prestigious package, so quite rare. The family goes on with the liquors and aperitifs section. We introduced this year a new aperitifs, which is a bitter, complementing our iconic bitter Nardini that has been there for almost a century. So bitter chinato is made with an in-house infusion of Cinchona calisaia, which is the quina, that make this bitter a little bit more extreme and ideal for mixology in the classic takes from Americano to Milano Torino and Negroni, this kind of classic cocktails. But the flagship aperitifs at the bridge at the Osteria is Mezzo e Mezzo. So Mezzo e Mezzo was born at the Grapperia, as Mezzo e Mezzo literally means half and half, or 50-50 is a blend 50-50 or two existing aperitifs. One is a rhubarb that we can see picture here, the Rabarbaro, and another one is an aperitif which is vermouth based, and we decided to present it to the market as a single packed SKU a few years ago, and it's a tremendous success because at the bridge, and we see some recipes going on, is quite a killer. I mean, it's definitely the drink of the house, if I can describe it like this. Moving to the liqueur section, we have a very unique and distinctive Acqua di Cedro. As you can see, this is a crystal clear blend of citrusy extract of citrus peel in alcohol, a little bit sugary, but quite nice for after dinner as a shotter, but very versatile in mixology. We have the Amaro Nardini, which is an old recipe only with 3 botanicals, because we use gentian roots, which is also giving some aftertaste taste of licorice, very interesting. We use peppermint, and we use bitter orange. So only 3 ingredients to get a very, very nice and complex bouquet of aromas. The rhubarb that we mentioned before, referring to the mezzo and mezzo, which is quite a key SKU for the UK market, thanks to Emporia. There is a coming back of the old school rabarbaro cocktails, so shaken or also on the rocks in mixology with other soft drinks. And then we have 2, let's say, drinks of the tradition. One is mainly local. It's called tagliatella, that historically was made with all the odds and ends of the distillery. So today is a codified recipe with mostly marasca cherry and grappa inside, and we have the mandorla that literally is almond, which is another key SKU in our portfolio, which is very versatile in mixology. So today, as you can see, we have quite a focused approach in terms of selection. So the classics, the selection, the aperitifs, the liqueurs, and the specialties. Moving forward, we can start talking about our SKUs. You are probably familiar with the green label in the UK market. As I introduced today, we are now offering our classic label in 40% ABV also on the white grappa for the UK. As you can see, we did some light restyling to the label and reinforcing our 3 distillation methods. So the continuous, the still, and the Ben of Mary. Which is important for us as a sign of distinction to confirm that our approach to a blended grappa is quite distinctive and successful. On the back label, there is some reference to the process and some service suggestion. We are moving more and more into a service suggestion, which is not only linked to the traditional end of the meal, but also in mixology, and we'll see moving forward some interesting recipe also with grappa. So this white grappa was born in 1779 at the entrance of the old bridge that we've seen before. As I said, it's distinctive, unique in terms of bouquet of aromas and scents created by the expert distillation of pomace of multiple grape varieties. This grappa has an authentic and outspoken personality, a pleasant taste, due also to this portion I mentioned before of a small portion of redistilled grappa that gives this mellowness and drinkability also in a grappa with a very decisive and persistent aroma. Floral, herbaceous notes, and this very decisive dark chocolate aroma, partnering perfectly with coffee. So coffee and grappa are a perfect pair, like in the typical resentine. So resentine is in a slang dialect saying is what you do at the end of a nice espresso. When you have some cream resting in your cup, you can pour a couple of spoonfuls of white grappa and rinse the cup to the end and then sip it in one go. This is one of the most exciting, I would say, rituals in our culture. But not only these, as I said, but a lot of potential in mixology that we're going to see in a second.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, obviously I know a lot of you who are watching here today have got themselves a bottle of the Grappa Bianca. So please do feel free, if you haven't done already, pour yourself a nice glass, give it a good smell, give it a good taste. See if you do pick up any of the floral, herbaceous notes, if you get a dark chocolate aroma. I'm a massive fan of having this with coffee. It was a big seller when we had the Bassano bar several years ago. Please, obviously, feel free to put in the comments. And if there's anything in particular that you do pick up that may not be what you'd expect, or of course, if you have this in the past, what is your favorite way of experiencing? We will showcase a handful of cocktails at the end to inspire you to, if you have a bottle, to try something different tonight, or maybe in the future once the bars have reopened. Come on, Boris, let's bring it forwards. But either way, do let us know what are your thoughts on the Grappa Bianca at 40% ABV.
Yes, please. We are eager and look forward to your tips and suggestions, recommendation for blending and mixing, because we strongly believe in the potential of grappa mixology. Of course, without losing our roots and the classic rituals of the Resentine or the classic end of the meal. Same applies to Grappa Riserva. As you can see, we adopted our classic creamy level also on Riserva, with distinctive attributes like the 3 years aging clearly marked and readable on the front label. This, as I said, was born in the Grapperia during a period of the Phylloxera. So by a disease, we obtained an innovation over a century ago. As I said, 3 years of aging are not very normal on a Riserva, especially on an everyday, if I can define it like this, grappa, because we are not in the Selezione range here. Again, Slavonian oak cask that we have discussed before are enriching with enveloping wood scents, softer palate, and a warmer mouthfeel. So again, elegance is the driver for our Riserva. Complexity with harmonious fruit and wood scents, perfect to be tasted neat after a meal at room temperature.
Fantastic. Now, I've just had a comment here from David Martin again. He says that the Bianca 40 smells like a marzipan croissant.
Smells like, say it again?
A marzipan croissant.
Wow, it's interesting. What can I say? When we enter into the subjectiveness of our noses and our feels on a spirit or on our grappa, everything is welcome for sure. What we want to obtain is a complexity of bouquet and aromas, and definitely the floral and herbal part are part of the bouquet that we tend to deliver on our white grappa. Yes,
definitely. Sophie Bratt has commented that the Bianca smells like Florentines as well.
Florentines.
Yes,
wow.
Florentines.
What do you mean Florentines? The flour or the steak?
I'm gonna guess the flour. Sophie.
Sorry, just kidding. No, it's okay. I mean, as I said, the intention is to offer the richer and ampler bouquet possible on our grappa. So when we hear people discovering new flavor and new smells, we are always welcome.
Yeah. Panos recommends that there's a bit of grapefruit aftertaste as well.
Well, the aftertaste is long, definitely, and is part of the approach of the multi-varietal. As I said, we never believed in the single varietal distillation because that reduces actually the bouquet and the complexity. So,
no, you're right. Well, I'm obviously drinking a little bit of the Grappa Riserva, and obviously an extra 3 years does make a bit of a difference. Obviously, I love an aged spirit more traditionally for me. Obviously, a big rum focus, brandy, cognac, Armagnac for me. So I do get some similarities, but obviously there's not many spirits, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that use Slavonian oak casks. So is this going to be quite a unique profile that people would expect if they're having the Grappa Riserva for the first time?
Well, possibly. I mean, we've been very loyal to large Slavonian oak cask. We are willing to explore, well, infusion, why not, in reservoirs, which is quite new because nobody did it before, and for sure, but this is already existing in the market, utilizing second-hand barrels from port or sherry that could also deliver very, very interesting results for grappa.
Okay. Sophie has actually said it was the chocolate Florentines that she was referring to.
Okay.
So that's good. It's fantastic, ladies and gents, that you're picking up a lot of things which I can actually now get going back to also the Bianco. In fact, I do get the marzipan. I do get that croissant as well, which is it's going to annoy me a little bit because it's great that it's obviously I didn't pick it up straight away. I love marzipan. I love croissant, but I wouldn't traditionally put the two flavors together in the same sentence. But this is what is a great scenario to be in, that we can ask a lot of people their own takes of what grappa means to them in regards to the aromas, the palate, the longevity of it as well. And I do get that grapefruit aftertaste. And I think for me personally, I got a little bit more of that floral element. If it wasn't grapefruit, I would have said it was a little bit more, I don't know what the word would be. Something a bit more, I don't know, lemon citrus over grapefruit citrus, maybe slightly orange water elements. So I was getting there, but it was good to see grapefruit, and I now get it as well. So it's really opening my sort of mind to what everybody else is picking up from here. Now, ladies and gents, it'd be interesting, obviously, to know from your own point of views in the comments which one you'd actually maybe prefer as your go-to between the Bianca and the Reserva in regards to creativity, in regards to how you would drink it. Is the Bianca a good go-to one for yourselves, or is it more the Reserva for the extra 3 years? Does it offer maybe a little bit more body to it, a bit more opportunity to pair with food as well as drinks? It'd be really good to hear your thoughts on that as Massimo now starts to go a little bit more detail about, as he quite rightly mentioned, a range that was introduced 4 years ago, I think you say, Massimo, for the
Yes.
Selezione.
Yes. Let's go to the Selezione, actually. As I said, this, by definition, is a selection, starting with the pomace and the final blend. They are intended to be the best and the greater expression of the family bicentennial distillation expertise and tradition, and the result, as we said before, of a continuous and meticulous selection of the softest and most perfumed, rich grappa batches stored in our cellars. So the point of difference in this range, as I said, is predominantly like 90%, sometimes more depending on the vintage, is red berries, is red pomace, and there is a good portion of redistilled grappa. So it's a more technical and most costly, more prestigious process behind this selection. The aging for the 5, 7, 15, and then the 22 is again in 20 hectoliters Slavonian oak casks. As I probably said before, the extra fina is the ultimate expression of a versatile grappa for mixology, but also as a solo sipper for its mellowness and drinkability and bouquet of aromas. So very, very floral. In a sense, despite it's the apex of probably our production, it's a good grappa for, let's say, beginners or new drinkers for grappa, because in a sense it's easier. But technically speaking, is the apex is the pinnacle of our production in Grappa Bianca. So Merlot, Cabernet, and Pinot Grigio are the typical pomace that we select for the Selezione. And there is a connection in the glass shape, as you've seen before, the architectural jewel we have at our headquarters. As you can see, these cuts on the glass are recalling actually that architecture. So it's a tribute to beauty, to architecture, and to well-living, well-being.
Fantastic.
We have introduced, in occasion of the 240th anniversary of the distillery 2 years ago, a single cask. A cask, again, is 20 hectoliters, so the grappa inside was foolproof, and once diluted to 45 ABV, we obtained 3,240 bottles. These are carefully signed by the master distiller, and they are the result of an exceptional cask that was selected among our range. And aging started on September 26, 1996, and finished on February 28, 2019. So that was an innovation in Nardini's world, since for the first time the final product was placed on a single cask, number 326, and allowed to mature for 22 years before bottling. I'm sure you are familiar with single cask selection with whiskies, and in grappa this was not that common before the release of our 22 years. So in a sense, it's an outstanding result with a lot of complexity, but delicate taste, richness in nuances, clear vanilla, and light floral scents. So
beautiful packaging, really, really nice.
Thanks.
I look forward to having one.
Very rare too.
Don't say they're going to go to Pisana, they're going to have to pick a bottle up.
All right. So I think that we are moving to the next chapter, which is actually the aperitifs. Yep. Well, I already introduced the mezzo e mezzo, but especially for the UK market, we are focusing on the bitter for its versatility, and we are going to see in a second a couple of tips on potential cocktails. Well, bitter is quite a well-established category in our culture. Our bitter has been there for almost a century, as I said before. Its profile is very, very gentle and versatile, widely used in the spritz culture and cocktails. Last year, in September, we introduced another bitter chinato, with a more extreme infusion of Cinchona calisaya, of quina. Again, specifically conceived for mixology, and it's unfiltered, meaning that it's filtered by decantation in stainless steel vats, and then it's bottled without filtration with paper. So quite thick, quite dense, quite extreme, very, very successful so far, and very complementary to our classic bitter. So they're not jeopardizing each other. They have different versatility opportunities. Next family is the Amari and liqueurs. So I already introduced quickly the Amaro Nardini as an Amaro made of 3 botanicals. The gentian root is the most distinctive note, which is giving this interesting licorice aftertaste. The peppermint and the bitter orange are complementing the gentian in an Amaro, which is, of course, very popular as an end of the meal on the rocks, but also in mixology. We can see a couple of interesting cocktails. Rhubarb is a part of our family and has been there for almost a century. We did a restyling of all this family recently, just to have a clear and distinct approach to what is liqueurs and Amaro versus aperitifs and grappa. And Acqua di Cedro is another important pillar in our assortment for its versatility, drinkability, and potentially mixology. Typically, it's served ice cold in single shots, but it's an ideal ingredient also for very, very contemporary cocktails.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any of the Amaro, Rabarbaro, or Acqua di Cedro at home, please do feel free to pour yourself a glass. Maybe perhaps have a couple of cubes of ice with the Acqua di Cedro as well to see what the transformation the chilled opportunity offers. And of course, like I say, please feel free to comment with your tasting notes, your maybe serving suggestions as we head into the specialities of what Nardini brand offers. And then, of course, some of our own cocktail creations that would hopefully inspire you for the use of the likes of the Amaro, the Rabarbaro, and the Acqua di Cedro as well.
Lovely. I hope you like the packs and the idea of having streamlined a little bit the assortment with a clear approach to all the families within our portfolio. So actually, the rhubarb label is a label from the 50s that was somehow already there. So in the Nardini memorabilia and the collection of all the labels, there was a huge source of inspiration to create or adapt the old school labels to something more contemporary. So this is the exercise that we've done during the last year and a half. So we didn't annoy that much during the pandemic, to be honest, because we did the restyling of the whole assortment. And hopefully this is gonna generate some grip in terms of business. So far last year, despite the pandemic, was quite good for us, and the fourth quarter is confirming the trend. So
sorry, I'm just enjoying a little bit of the Rabarbaro there. It's been a bit of a favourite of mine when we had it at the Bassano bar at the couple of years back. We used it within a Negroni, and it surprised a lot of people. Obviously, the facts of using rhubarb itself, but that caramelized sort of fruit profile when they enjoyed it on its own really sort of hammered home that it's not, I suppose, scary to use an Amari and a liqueur, especially a traditional one that may not be their go-to here in the UK. Ethos that myself and Nick had at the time, and still do today from my own point of view, is to sort of recommend a flavor profile that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but actually can get behind. You know, rhubarb, especially here in the north of England with the rhubarb triangle, is very, very well-known flavor. We've got some great rhubarb gins available, so it's not a scary approach. And to have it within a more traditional cocktail like a Negroni, even a long serve with soda water or tonic water, all of a sudden it turned out to be a great summer sort of focus, without going with I suppose the overcomplicated approach of a different spelling or using words like grappa itself as well. It really hammered home a different approach to what grappa could offer while also getting them to actually enjoy it at the same time. There's a really good response that we had from that. And it was the same for the Amaro and the Acqua di Cedro as well. We did a great lemon martini. And we had a lot of people saying, oh, fantastic, I love a lemon martini. But they hadn't realized it was a grappa base, but they were drinking as well. They just presumed it was lemon. And because of that fresh lemons that we use, it really surprised people when I say, you've just been drinking grappa. But I don't like grappa. Well, you do, because you've actually just approached it without realizing, and it hammers home, and it's not a scary spirit. And I think products like these and the Nardini as the brand has really sort of captured that unstuffiness of what grappa maybe means to certain people. I'm just seeing a comment here by David. The Amaro is unreal, he says. Menthol, burnt cream, creme brulee, sugar. Lots of flavors. Kyra is saying here, Rabarbaro tastes like hard-boiled coffee sweets. So there's a lot of UK British sort of focus here that they can relate to a traditional Italian spirit, which is fantastic.
I like it. Thank you, guys. Well, there is a great coming back of rhubarb-based drinks. It was considered a little bit of an old school spirit in a sense, especially in our market. There was probably one main player, and the other main player almost abandoned the category. As you know, we had a tremendous success on the rhubarb-based drink with our Mezzo Mezzo, which is one of our top sellers in the aperitif section. So rhubarb is a sort of a hybrid between a liqueur and an aperitif. What I like is that the ABV is relatively moderate, so 19 ABV makes it a perfect bitter, or aperitif in this case, to drink shaken on the rocks and then pour directly in the martini glass. It's a fantastic, refreshing summer drink with this bitter and sweet contrast that make it quite distinctive and unique. In the case of Acqua di Cedro, well, this is a liqueur, so technically there is alcohol, selected alcohol from cereal. There is no grappa on it, but there is an infusion of peels of citrus, an essential oil of citrus with a transparent, completely transparent approach. So don't confuse Acqua di Cedro with any limoncello, please, which is quite an abused category. In our case, it's a very, very, very distinctive only from citrus.
I've just seen Panos has said the Acqua di Cedro has got a very herbal nose to it as well. So it's not all about, obviously, the citrus focus for himself. He's picking up a bit more of that herbal element to really round off the approach of Acqua di Cedro.
Yeah, the essential oils of citrus can definitely deliver also herbal notes. Much depends on the temperature, the serving temperature. Because also of the sugar contents, the lower the temperature, the more harmonic the tasting, I would say, because typically I drink it as an after dinner, well chilled, and it's quite nice.
Fantastic. So our next slide is going to focus on obviously the specialities in, again, 2 expressions we have available here in the UK.
Yes, the Mandorla almond. Here we have grappa aftertaste because there is some grappa in the blend and combined with marasca cherry distillate. So very versatile, very unique, I would say. The almond essence that we use don't have to confuse or overlap our Mandorla with the typical amaretto-based drinks that you can find in the market. The ABV is quite solid. We're talking about a 50% ABV. So also when used in mixology, we need to be very careful in the quantity we use. But in terms of distinction, in flavor and profile, is very unique. Tagliatella, that I mentioned before, is a liqueur born at the Grapperia in the 1700s. It's unique, very floral. Again, here we have grappa in the blend, marasca cherry, orange, and spices. And all these ingredients is one of our most complex recipes these days. Makes tagliatella one of the top seller in our portfolio, especially locally. So, again, great versatility in mixology.
Well, obviously, speaking of mixology, I know the next handful of slides are going to showcase, obviously, cocktail stories, but Nardini is famous for, especially in obviously the showcase on the website, as well as the social media. And obviously, I've recently, Provence Cocktail Week has had a real focus from using Nardini, and not just obviously the grappa, but the range of aperitivo as well. So I know you've got a fantastic selection here. So feel free to showcase what Nardini can do.
Yes, we start with the grappa-based cocktail, which are quite new, I would say, to the market. Consider that last year, the first cocktail with the IBA association was introduced, which is called Vento. So the International Bartending Association can account for 92 probably codified cocktails. Some 66 are the classics, and there is a new generation of, let's say, modern or progressive cocktails. And grappa, for the first time last year, was introduced in this Vento cocktail. This is a typical sour. as you can see from the ingredients. So we use grappa bianca in this case, 1.5 ounce, so 45 ml. Fresh lemon juice, honey mix. We replace water with chamomile, chamomile cordial, 1/2 ounce, and an egg white. In preparation, shaker, of course. Shake vigorously with ice and then strain in a chilled small tumbler glass and fill with and decor with a grape. The sour category with the grappa bianca to me is very intriguing. There is a great potential to explore. This is considered typically an after dinner, slightly aromatic, and interesting that for the first time grappa has entered the IBA. We go to something like the Paloma, which is a well-established category. We have our take with the Paloma Nardini. Again, we use grappa bianca, 50 ml, with lime juice. We use a bitter from Cortese, which is a local brand of sodas. It's an organic citrus, and we garnish with a slice of grapefruit. The preparation is quite easy. So highball with ice cubes. We put the grappa, and then we add the lime, the bitter, and then we stir gently and garnish with a slice of grapefruit. We have the Garda Collins. Garda is a lake, as you know, and the vast majority of our citrus for Acqua di Cedro is coming from Garda Lake, that historically has been an important region of production for citrus. So in this case, we use grappa bianca and Acqua di Cedro, lemon juice, simple syrup, sugar syrup, with topping of soda, and we garnish with a slice of lemon. So very nice preparation and decoration in this case. A Collins glass with ice, and then we pour all the ingredients, top of soda, stir and garnish with a slice of lemon. Typical after dinner. Oh, now we go to some classics revisited. So the Negrini. So it's a Negroni made by Nardini in this case. So yes, it's grappa bianca together with bitter chinato, our bitter, the more extreme one that we've seen before, and red vermouth. So the portions are 1, 2, 2. Well, of course, well-chilled glass with ice, and then we put ingredients. We mix and garnish with an orange twist. Another classic cocktail revisited with grappa bianca. And then we have a mule. We have this wonderful cups in stainless steel with a personalized hook. Grappa bianca Nardini with ginger beer, lemon juice, and garnish with fresh mint leaves. Another classic revisited. Easy preparation, refreshing, and quite, I would say, progressive and new to habitual drinker of the classic mule. Another great take, which is a classic internationally, I would say, the espresso martini in the Nardini version. So, as we said before, grappa and coffee are a perfect match. So you can't miss espresso Nardini. This recipe is by Nick Hopewell-Smith, which is the author of our first grappa handbook 9 years ago that was republished last year. Again, we have in the same proportion grappa bianca with espresso coffee and Borghetti coffee liquor. And after shaking vigorously, you can garnish with 3 coffee beans. Very, very nice take on the espresso and grappa, typical after dinner. We now move to the aperitif section. On the cocktails, well, Americano, no explanation for that. Our take is with the bitter, our classic bitter and vermouth with the top of soda, garnished with orange slice and lemon peel. So quite a classic. Bassano Torino is our take on the Milano Torino, which is another classic, but we start from Bassano instead from Milano. So this is an Nardini take. We have the bitter chinato, so the more extreme bitter in the same proportion with your favorite red vermouth, and garnish with lemon peel. Of course, here ice is instrumental and fundamental. Having a proper chilled glass or classic old-fashioned. Drain the exceeding water before starting the preparation, and then stir gently before garnishing. Spritz. Spritz today is a family, is a category. There is no one spritz. There are families of spritzes, and despite the inflation of spritzes, we think that there is a potential to use quality ingredients to make a distinctive spritz. Typically, you can use Prosecco, which is already a sparkling wine, but you can also use a nice quality white wine, which what I do typically at home. If I have some good white wine left in my fridge, I use that together with our bitter. Topping, you can use soda, or you can use the salts. I have a nice salts at home, delivering very fine and persistent bubbles, and that can also make a difference. Garnish again with a slice of orange, with a typical tumbler glass, and on the rocks, of course. Mezzo Mezzo is our flagship aperitif at the Bassano Bridge. I'm sure that they've already experienced that. As you can see, there is no ice inside this glass, so typically we use a well-chilled Mezzo Mezzo with the salts in the same proportion and a lemon peel. Again, if you like rhubarb, that kind of sweet and bitter aromas, Mezzo Mezzo is your way to go. You can also reinterpret this recipe on the rocks, like a Negroni style drink. Very interesting. And it's a sort of an Nardini signature cocktail. With the liquors, especially with Acqua di Cedro, we have the Cedro and tonic. Tonic water and Acqua di Cedro garnished with a lemon twist, and in this case, some mint leaves. We have the Cedro Spritz, going back to the Spritz family. We can use Prosecco or your favorite white wine with soda and Acqua di Cedro, garnishing with mint once again. And we have a take from the Garage Nardini, which is our flagship cocktail bar here in Bassano, by the resident bartender Nick Scatola. This is the Amaro and Stormy, which is one of my favorite. We use the Amaro Nardini, in this case with ginger beer, lime juice, and French mint sprig. In the preparation, it's very important to go bottom up and build in a tumbler, stir very gently, so that you also have this chromatic effect with the color of the Amaro resting at the bottom and going up to lighter color. Of course, after a couple of sips, everything gets blended automatically, but in the preparation, it's very interesting to have this separation of colors in the preparation. So I hope some tips for you guys in utilizing the Nardini ingredients for your creativity and your mixology. I think we are more or less done with the tips for today.
I think you got one more from what I can remember. Is it the Nardotto?
Oh, yes. I was almost forgetting the Nardotto. Sorry, guys.
No, but Giuseppe as well. Oh, geez.
With the rhubarb. Yes, you're totally right. It's, by the way, one of my favorite, because we are using Chinotto here together with the rhubarb. Rhubarb we've seen before. This is built on a highball glass with ice. We top up Chinotto and stir lightly and garnish with a slice of orange. Yes. Refreshing, very, very interesting summer drink, light and refreshing.
Fantastic. I'm not going to lie, I think out of all those, tonight it's all about the Amaro and Stormy for myself.
Lovely, lovely.
I'm very, well, I'm saying intrigued. I've had it before, but it's been a long, long time. Obviously, a massive fan of Dark and Stormies from a rum point of view, and I could see that Amaro working. So, but as you quite rightly say, Massimo, I'm hoping it's given a lot of people who are watching here tonight, or again watching it back a little bit later, but it's inspired them to obviously utilize grappa, the aperitivos, the liqueurs that Nardini have to offer within, one of their favorite signature traditional Italian serves like the Negroni, but also perhaps one or two feels to get them to try something a little bit different as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is, as Massimo quietly says, pretty much everything from ourselves this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you have any questions and comments at all, please do feel free to post them up now. Massimo, I'm going to ask you a big favor. Could you make me a host once again, if possible?
Sure.
I'm seeing some great comments here. Definitely going to purchase some Nardini grappa. We'd love to see that. The rhubarb and the bitters look fantastic. Ciao and all the best, Massimo, for a visit to Grappa region soon. I know myself, I'm looking forward to getting over, well, probably not this year, by the way our international travel is going, but definitely in 2022. I've yet to get myself over there, despite all the work we've been doing together over the last several years. And I'm hoping this has inspired a lot of people watching to see the wooden bridge, see the old school production methods, the stills that we used in the past, and of course the production facility as we see it today, producing some fantastic award-winning spirits as well. Just to let everyone know, if you are watching this from a trade point of view, the Nardini range is quite widely available across national wholesalers for the likes of Matthew Clark, specialty as well. If you're watching this from a consumer point of view, your best opportunities to pick up the Nardini range are from the likes of Master of Malts, Whiskey Exchange, and the Drink Shop as well. I always recommend, of course, to head to the Nardini website for more further ideas from food and drinks in regards to any of your favorite of the Nardini range. Panos says that was great. Thank you both, guys. And like I say, to be fair, thank you, Panos, and everybody else who's commented and got involved with today. Whether you received a beautiful pack of the grappas, whether you've been cracking open your own bottles at home, or indeed intend to do it in the future, it's fantastic to approach something so traditional, so old school, yet in such a modern era that Nardini has focused on. A big, big thank you, of course, to Massimo himself for taking the time this evening, all the way straight from Italy itself, to showcase and explain what Nardini is all about. I can only do so much, but I feel like it comes a little bit more authentic from an Italian guy. A Northern Mancunian lacks a bit of finesse, I feel, when it comes to talking about grappa.
Wow, thank you for hosting us, and we're here to stay in Bassano for another couple of centuries. So take your time, guys. When you're ready, you are invited to visit our historical grapperia at the bridge, and we look forward to hosting you in Bassano. Thank you for attending.
Fantastic. Ladies and gents, I don't see any more comments. Obviously, barring the great thank yous from you all, Sophie, Toby, David, of course, as well. But if you have any other further questions, please do feel free to message the Emporia brand social media directly. That goes straight to myself, and we will do our best to answer or direct you for the best place to purchase some Nardini for your own pleasure of enjoyment. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you all again very soon, I'm sure.
Lovely. Thank you.